Welcome guys, it's the Camel again and welcome back to Camel Kingdom. Yeah, today to the second episode of our coaster and the hypercoaster layout, design, whatever. So last episode, within this week, actually the first one, I showed you the first design, and today I'm gonna start with the POV of the already improved version according to some comments. And after the POV I'm going into some details of this coaster. And first of all, sorry for the Shambhalaya stuff, it's definitely Shambhala, and I totally messed up, but I have always to think of a song. But yeah, so enjoy the POV first and then we talk about more. Okay, so actually guys, that was kind of a little bit of a joke. For those of you who have recognized this, this was obviously a part of the old POV from the last episode. I didn't release it in the last episode because I just want to show you the layout first, and now we are going in with the new POV, and so you can judge the new POV afterwards a little bit better, or the new layout, now in direct comparison to the last POV you just saw a few seconds ago. But now let's enjoy the real new POV. So there we go, back into the station guys, and this was actually the POV of the new improved layout. Though I must say that there are still a few things I don't like about the new one, and which I actually liked a little bit more about the old one, and I still have to go into and fix that again. So first thing is this part over here. I kind of wanted to improve the shape over here, but by doing so, the transition into, because this one is going slightly to the right side, the transition really got worse. So it was really better at the first layout because we had a little bit more banking offset still in it, but throughout a little bit more smoothing I actually got into problems, so that this is still not perfect. I do still think I have to redo the entire thing over here and rebuild it again to get in with the offset again, because it is already, you know, it's too much already banked until this part down here, and it should go right up straight over here again. So let's see how the coaster goes through it. There you can see it just gently goes back, but it has to go in a little bit early on. Then I redid this element over here entirely because the shape of it looked a little bit strange, but by doing so the transition into this element got a little bit too smooth for my opinion, like too smooth in the way that the you know, the movement of the car is too slightly in comparison to what the real world examples of this element would do. So I still need to do a little bit more banking to the inside of this element. So as you can see over here, there's no banking to the right hand side at all. And then we go straight into this one, which is pretty okay, I guess, for the entire thing. We might just bank it a tiny little bit more on the upper hand side over here. But this entrance of this element is really not good. I think we still would need, so if we go in, we could just try for a second. I do think that we still would need a little bit of banking towards the inner side, like this. This is way too strong, obviously, but we could try to, by smoothing it, we definitely lose banking, so that might be it already. I don't know if that already is enough, but so we kind of have now a little bit better entrance to this element. So okay, but then again, something happened I still wanted to avoid, because it is going too early on into this element, so we don't have any straight part on this valley over here. So I definitely have to fix this as well, because I don't do this, I don't like it, and I think it's also one flaw I had in my very first layouts ever. Like, that was really one thing I kind of messed up all the time, that I didn't have straight parts in between elements, which every normal coaster would have, but I just didn't do it because I was always smoothing without any kind of sense of realism, and therefore always ended up with those kind of things. Still, there we go. It would need to stay. Maybe we just need to remove this first, and wait, can we just remove this part, please? And then just move on working on this. Alright, so I think if we just do it now, we kind of could end up with a bit better transition over here, if this works. I still hope it does. And now we could try to connect those two again. Let's see if this keeps straight. Then it does, and so we go into this element then. Like, we have to do a POV later on again, to see if that's improving the entire thing, but as you can see now, if we smooth this out, it's fine because it doesn't change anything over here. But you know, this is something I still do struggle with a lot. Then we have another element which I'm not happy with, which is this over here. I mean, the shape of it still doesn't, it's too straight for my taste. I would go a little bit more in here so that the valley is not as strong. So maybe we can try this as well now. I won't do too much now live, but I keep on pressing R to join a building, but which is definitely working for a building, but it doesn't work for a coaster, which is kind of strange. It should do, but it doesn't. But yeah, so maybe we can already try and improve this shape by just smoothing this out, but it's still getting too, so maybe we have to lower this down even more. And then we try to, maybe not that far, but maybe until this point, smooth this out, and then just try to get this part in again, so that we have this a little bit more nice in terms of the transition, and it doesn't look too straight up in general. So that might already be a little bit better, but therefore we still would need to improve this part over here as well. But as I said, now if I do this, I have to be careful so that this part down here isn't going into the banking too early on, which it already does. Well, it kind of doesn't do it properly. So this is completely wrong over here. So we would definitely need banking to this side. And yeah, go straight up then again. Oh wow, what did I do just now? But yeah, as I said, this is only to show you. It's not too much of a building episode, but I think still, since I'm just showing some POVs and the improved version, it's not too much time we are now spending onto this, so that should be fine. But yeah, this is something I'm also not quite happy with quite yet. I still have to do some more improvements on that. Then I wanted to tackle some comments, by the way, guys, before we go on with the layout in detail. I wanted to mention something. I was pretty sure I did, but I just listened to my episode again, and I thought to check it again, and I just recognized I didn't do so. The supports weren't, you know, they weren't supposed to be actual supports. I just made them in to make it look not that strange, but I'm going to make custom supporting later on for this coaster, obviously, because like the in-game ones are a little bit too thin anyways, and they don't actually fit most of the elements. So I'm definitely going to use the custom support possibilities we have in the game, and I wanted to just tackle this. The second thing I wanted to tackle is you know, I'm pretty happy for the comments, and I did say don't hesitate to do so, and you might just want to be rude. I don't care that much, but the thing is, as long as the criticism does help me because it's valid and justified, it's totally fine. But if you're talking about this like if you would know everything and in fact you just, you know, mention wrong things, that doesn't help much. So first thing is, everybody was mentioning the coaster is too high. Well, actually it isn't, because the coaster is, and if we go in, you can see it's 72 meters, which is for a hypercoaster, for a B&M styled hypercoaster, it's a pretty average. You know, we do have some with even 99 meters, and this is, you know, pretty average. Then again, we go into the next thing. People were mentioning that the and that the slopes weren't steep enough. So actually, that's also not true, because like the steepest part I have is over here, and I guess over here as well, I'm not too sure, which is about 71 degrees, I guess. Can we see that, by the way? Not yet, not quite yet, but I'm pretty sure it is something about 71, 72 degrees I used over there, and same goes for over here. And the maximum slope I found on a hypercoaster is 81 degrees. So yeah, it's a little bit above my 71, 72 degrees, but the average is somewhere between 70 and 80 degrees. So actually that's not bad then at all. I mean, if I would have done like 60 degrees, it would be pretty valid to say it's not steep enough, but actually it is. So that's also something. I mean, I didn't you know, showed you the values, so don't take this too personal if you do so, but anyways, never take it personal. But I just wanted to mention that this is not, you know, it's not the case. So I did some research in beforehand, and you know, it's kind of, if I do release a coaster like that, it's maybe already something like, okay, Rudy built a coaster, it's crap, okay? So like I can somehow understand this behavior, because most of my coasters I did in the past were quite crap in terms of realism. But I'd ask you to always keep in mind what this series is about, and for my taste at least, and I will keep on going with this series in general, and because I want to improve in coaster building, and I still think I do throughout this series. But you know, I will never be Sylph, who kind of knows everything about every coaster, and this is fine, because it's awesome to see how he does, and there are so many other people in this community who are just crazy good at building coasters. I'm not, so I want to improve. And the idea is not to build, as I said now many times, the idea is not to build a one-by-one recreation or a kind of one-by-one recreation because we just take different elements from real-world coasters and slap them onto each other and kind of create a new coaster with that. The idea is to grab a real life, and I feel stupid because I'm going to explain that again and again and again, but I think still new people are joining the series, so it might be useful to talk about this again. The basic idea is to build a coaster which could be built in real life in terms of the elements and the forces and the overall experience and airtime and, you know, all this kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean that this coaster has to be necessarily like a proper B&M coaster which B&M could build next week in, I don't know, the theme park of your choice. So please don't take it too serious of a approach to build a perfect realistic B&M coaster when I say it's B&M inspired. You know, that's still, it's still a game, it's still a fantasy coaster, and we can still take some flaws of it into account and kind of, you know, just stay with those flaws still, because it will definitely make no sense to, for me at least, to build a realistic 1x1 recreation to kind of, you know, go in and try something new, because still I want to have some fun. But yeah, apart from that, I can talk to you through the biggest change of the entire coaster, and this is the last part of the coaster. I did this again, like kind of revamp while a Twitch stream, and I got some nice ideas, and one of those ideas is also about the last part of the coaster, to end it like this. We had this kind of splashdown over here, which effectively wouldn't be a splashdown. Okay, it was my fault over there, because I used the term splashdown, which is no real splashdown. It should have been a you know, a water splash. Coasters going through, and you have those water fountains going on to the left and right side, as if the coaster would rush through water. But it's not actually a splashdown, which you would see in a, for example, dive coaster or so. That was my fault to not kind of explain that correctly. But yeah, so apart from that, the end now has a much more like 2 more airtime hills, because that was also something you mentioned in the comments, that we might just want to have as much airtime in this coaster as we can. I still wanted to keep this little curvy thing over here, and also these curves over here, because I still do like it a lot how it is, for example, on Silver Star. Like the last few corners before it's going into the brake run are pretty quick left right handers with a nice transition between each other, so I wanted to kind of keep those in, but that's already it. So the only thing I'm really worried about now, and I would really need your help if you have got some nice ideas to improve it, is like the last section going into the brake run. From my taste, it's a pretty heavy brake run in terms of how much the train has to be brake down then, or slowed down then, because it's still carrying a lot of potential energy into the brake run, and we need until over here, until the train reaches the speed of the brakes itself. So like it's not going in gently, it's going in like really fast, and that would be, in terms of realism, a really hard work for the brakes. And I think it's also, you know, a really hard thing. If those would break down, we would get some pretty dangerous accidents over here with the coaster station. So I'm not quite sure what to expect from this. Maybe we slap in another trim brake over here to break the train already a little bit down. And still I have to improve a little bit of the shapes over here. It's still not perfect, and maybe we also go in and change this airtime hill a tiny little bit more, so to squeeze out a little bit more airtime, because it now goes in a little bit too gently into this left-hander for my taste at least, but at least it's pretty smooth. But yeah, so that is basically it about the layout. Also another thing which has been mentioned is about this brake run over here, that it might be a little bit too high. Well, also over here a little bit comparison values from the real world are something between 20 and 30 meters, if I reckon correctly, where the mid-course brake runs are. And so I've got 33, which is a little bit higher than usual, but since the actual coaster is a little bit smaller than usual, I kind of wanted to remain then the speed a little bit more, because if we would go in the mid-20s over here, we kind of would have a problem in terms of the speed at the end of the coaster. And I still wanted it to be quick enough to have a fun last part of the coaster. But yeah, here we can see some of the values. I definitely need to work on this value over here, which is still way too high, but I didn't finish smoothing the values out entirely. So for example, this area over here, but we could also, oh, never mind. I just could do it quite quickly, so to see, come on, why isn't that working? So please start the test now, so that we can see where the, why doesn't, could you please tell me, oh, what am I doing? What? I didn't even notice that I deleted the station. Well, never mind. Alright, so let's kind of get in a quick look where the most or the worst parts are in terms of the yeah, you can see over here it's still too high. Like we can go like 4.3 is still pretty heavy, but this is something where we might just land at the end realistically. So I think, as I said, this area over here is still the worst one and the first one as well. So those two I definitely have to work on, which I will do. So then we should be in a kind of good yeah, situation in terms of g-forces and the vertical g-forces. But apart from this, you can see that the max speed is pretty decent, the length is pretty decent, the duration is pretty decent, I mean like in comparison to a real world coaster. And then we do have also some really nice airtimes, like we've got 5 at the moment. Airtime duration with 3.5 seconds is kind of okay, I guess. It's pretty nice, I think. And we have got the 1.05 and the 1.15 Gs as the airtime Gs, which is pretty decent, I guess. I would say that's pretty nice. So we do have very nice airtime, which is effectively the most important thing about a hypercoaster. So that's where the excitement comes from. But yeah, as you can see, nice airtimes, and yeah, as I said, we might just try to get in a little bit more of those nice airtime moments, and then it should be nice at the end. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the splashdown, in a way. I don't have the word for it, but the kind of water fountain element will be over here. I still have to see how I manage to do this with the height of those, but I think we can do it so that it isn't touching the elements over here, because I will do a little bit of path interaction over here, so that this entire, you know, change element over here, so the you know, the turn element, which I think turned out quite nicely though. So I am at least been pretty happy with this one. But yeah, I want to have some path interaction here to make this a little bit more interesting, and then we will have in the end just a little bit of terrain work and custom supporting, a little bit of foliage, and that should be it about this coaster then. So I'm not going to do anything heavy in terms of theming, just a coaster station, a pretty simple one, and that should be it, because then again I tried to release this as a blueprint this time. But yeah, so that should be it for this episode, guys, and yeah, just give me your feedback as always, and as I said, still don't hesitate to tell what you think about it. So see you then, bye bye guys.